Our guest today is Dr. Gary Sanchez, who has undergone an extraordinary transformation from a struggling dentist to a visionary advocate of discovering one's why. His mission is to help 1 billion people uncover their why, leading to profound changes in their lives and work. Dr. Sanchez's journey has not only revolutionized his dental practice, but also transformed the lives of thousands, redefining how they approach both life and work. Together with his team, he has guided hundreds of thousands of individuals and collaborated with diverse organizations, from small yoga studios to Fortune 500 companies, helping them gain clarity, stand out, and achieve greater success. Today, we'll explore Dr. Sanchez's groundbreaking insights into the 9 whys and how they can significantly enhance clarity, confidence, certainty in relationships, careers, and personal fulfillment. Welcome to our show, Gary.
Reno, thank you. This is going to be exciting. I'm happy to be here.
So many people seem to stumble into relationships, careers, and situations. And sometimes, mostly like in the middle of life, in their 50s, they find out that they've placed their ladder against the wrong wall. How do you avoid that?
That's a great question. So let's go back in time for all of us that are listening, and think back to when you were in high school, or let's just say 15 years old, and your parents' friends would come over to your house to hang out with your parents. And what would be the question that they would always ask, right? They'd see me. This is what would happen with me, at least, is they would see me and they say, "So Gary, what do you want to do with your life? Or where do you want to go to school?
What do you want to
You know,
be?" Yeah.
what do you want to be when you grow up?" Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Now, how the heck am I supposed to know that at age 15? But that was the question that at least I got. And I'm assuming you got that as well.
Yes, I did indeed. I grew up in a small town in South Africa in a mainly farming community. And of course, you did what your parents did. And I ended up doing something completely different that nobody else in my family had ever done. I became a journalist.
Well, so and when you're that age, the first decision, at least in the United States, that we have to figure out is, well, where do you want to go to college?
Mhm.
So how the heck do you figure that one out? I ended up going where a bunch of my friends went because it seemed like it was a fun place to go. And then once you're in college, you have to decide on your major. And so, that in itself, how do you figure that out? And since most of us don't know, then we just pick something, maybe a major that you're getting a good grade in that class, which is kind of what happened to me, which was biology. I was doing good in biology. Hey, I'm going to be a biology major. And then that lasts for a little while. And you got to figure out, okay, what are you going to do with that biology major? And I didn't want to be a biologist, but I had to pick something to be a major in. So I ended up picking dental school. My dad was a dentist. I knew the lifestyle. I'd worked a little bit in his practice. So I said, all right, let me try that. So off to dental school I go. And then you get involved with it. And, another 4 years in the United States of dental school, get out of dental school. And now you're very much invested in being a dentist. And then you start to accumulate things, right? Houses, cars, spouses, kids, expenses, overhead. And now you're stuck, right? You
Mhm.
can't just walk away. You can't just change careers. You've got a family to provide for. And so you got to wait till your kids grow up.
Life is postponed until retirement, and then when you are in a retirement, you find out, well, most of my life is over. What have I done? What have I done with my life?
My runway, what happened to my runway? I
Yeah.
don't have much time left. And so very many people do that. They don't know what they want because they don't know who they are. And if you start at a young age by helping people figure out who they are, then finding their passion, finding their purpose, finding their direction, figuring out where they should spend their time becomes so much easier if you just know who you are at a young age. And so what the why, so for those of you that are listening, what Reina was talking about is I developed the process and then the software for helping people figure out what their why is, why you do what you do. And my new software goes even deeper. It finds not only your why, but your how and your what, and builds your personal message for you. Mm. So answering the question, who are you and why do you do what you do, becomes a lot easier.
Yeah. Right? I think this is really key. So many people are programmed. One of the great spiritual teachers said, know who you are and then know who you are not. And then you'll find out who you really are.
You know, when it comes to maybe your parents, like my parents said, go find your passion, right? Live your passion. Well, thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad. That sounds wonderful, but how do I do that? Well, I don't know. Just go do it. Go find it. Go try some things out.
Yeah, I think this term has also been so overused. Passion. What is passion?
So passion is, in my view, when what you do is in line with why you do what you do, you will have passion for what you do. And passion is the fuel that gives you the energy to pursue your dreams. Without passion, you quit. You run out of energy. With passion, you persevere. And that's why passion is so important. So if you start with your why you do what you do, not why, when I speak at events around the world, I'll often say something like, when you know your why, what you do has more impact. And invariably somebody will come up to me and say, yeah, I agree with you. In fact, I know my why. And I'll say, great, what's your why? And they'll pull out their phone and they'll show me pictures of their kids and say, oh, this is my why. This is why I do what I do. Or they'll show me a picture of a little red dress and they'll say, I got to get into this dress for a wedding in 6 months. And so that's why I'm working out so hard. Or my business or my book is my why. And what they're talking about is very important, but that's a short-term motivation for doing things the way they're doing it. When their kids grow up, or their business moves on, or the wedding passes, they lose their why. What we're talking about is something much more profound. Why you do what you do everywhere you go. Why you operate the way you operate. Why you take action. And so can we use you as an example?
Sure, we can. Let's go.
Okay. So Reno took the YOS discovery, YOS, capital WHY.OS, Y operating system is what it stands for. And so your results, do you happen to have it in front of you or do you want me to read it?
I've got it. Yeah.
Okay. So do you happen to have your simple YOS there, which is the statement that's on which is on the website? I'm not sure if you have it in those papers, but.
Well, I've got here the headlines: characteristics, challenges, solutions, personal relationships, work relationships, parental relationships, and so on.
Okay. And so your why, tell everybody what your why came up to be.
Well, it says here, you want to be part of a greater cause, something that is bigger than yourself. You don't necessarily want to be the face of the cause, but you want to contribute to it in a meaningful way. You love to support others and you relish successes that contribute to the greater good of the team. You see group victories as personal victories. You're often behind the scenes looking for ways to make the world better. And that really syncs with me. Yeah.
And the term for that is, so your why is contribute, to contribute to a greater cause, add value, have an impact on the lives of others, right? So you use your time, your money, your energy, your connections to push other people forward, right? You want to be the pebble that causes the ripple effect that goes on, and the pebble that's dropped into the pond that causes the ripple effect that goes on in the lives of others, right?
Right. Correct. Yes.
And then how Reno goes about doing that is by seeking mastery and understanding. So feel free to read the part that it says there about mastery. Okay. So how Reno does that is by seeking depth, breadths, and details. He loves to dive in deep. He loves the knowledge, the study, and the learning, looking for the little thing that makes the big difference, right? Learning as much as you can about it, going very, very deep, much deeper than most people. How does
Indeed.
that feel?
That sinks, yes.
And then ultimately, what Reno brings is a trusting relationship where others can count on him, because he wants to be the trusted source. He wants to be the one that others look to, because he studied it so deep. And so he's the guy that'll grab your hand and kind of walk you to that finish line, or to that place that you're trying to get to, because what he's going to share with you is true. It's one of life's truths, right?
Exactly. Yes. It's quite interesting that in my life, when I started my career as a young journalist, I had the same passion, being a watchdog on society, educating society. My teacher at the time said, journalism is about educating and informing the reader. And that kind of changed over the years with the digital revolution, when the media became more and more entertainment. And I realized it's all about the negativity, promoting the negativity. And that's where I had my real midlife crisis and realized you got to change something. This is no longer your passion.
Yeah.
It doesn't sync with my why. It did at the time when I was a young man. So I had to reconfigure, I had to virtually reinvent myself. And this was a process that took me a few years. And I'm in a very much happier place today because it syncs with what I'm doing now in the conversation we're having right now.
Exactly. So you are a perfect example of what we're talking about. When what you do is not or no longer in alignment with your why, how, and what, you don't have energy for it. You don't
Ex
want to do it anymore. You lose
exactly.
your passion, right? You lose your passion.
You lose your passion. I was at the brink of a burnout when I took a long walk on the Camino in Spain and had to find clarity for myself on what are you going to do next. I love doing, which is helping people find their meaning and their purpose in life.
Oh, that's perfect. And so then on the flip side of that is you went from something that no longer fits you to now something that fits you perfectly, where you get to help others have a bigger impact by diving in deep to look for their, who they are, and being that trusted source to bring more information, more experts, more people to them to enhance their journey.
I think this is one of the major problems we are having in our world today. Why is depression such an epidemic? It's because people find no meaning and purpose in what they're doing. And this is why I find your mission so important in helping people find clarity on this level of what is my why? What is my purpose in life? What am I meant to become since I was born? I think we all have a purpose, but it's clouded, it's muddied by the world outside there telling us how to be and what to be.
You're speaking my language. And you were fortunate, Reno, in that you had many years living your passion as a journalist until the career of journalism changed. And it became, like you said, about sensationalism and about the journalist. When you were no longer about helping others have a big, like right now, it's you go to the news and it's about look at me, look at me, look at me. I'm the journalist. Look at me. I'm the important one here. The news isn't important. I'm the important one because I need to get all these likes and I need to make some more money for me. Where it used to be about report the news, don't report yourself. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
That felt good to you.
Indeed. Yeah.
And now it doesn't. And so, but there's so many people, Reno, that don't know how to make the decision. They don't know how to answer the question, who am I? Right? They
Yeah.
don't even know where to begin.
Mm.
And it's very confusing. There's so many options, right? Myers-Briggs, Colby, Strength Finder disc, coaches, psychotherapy, going on a long walk, going and living in a cave for a year. Oh, there's so many things you could do to try to find yourself. But if you just start with knowing your why, your how, and your what, you will get so far down that path in 8 minutes. It takes 8 minutes to find your why, how, and what.
Can you go into your history when that process started with you? You had your dentist's practice, and something changed where you were moved onto this path of not only changing your dental practice, but also helping others in the way you are doing now.
Yeah, exactly. When I got out of dental school, the advice that and this was in 1988, I even hate to say that, but in 1988, the advice that I was given was build a great product and people will come. I'm sure you heard that, right? Go out and do the best job you can. People will naturally, mysteriously find out about you and they'll come see you. So I spent 20 years doing that, reaching the highest levels you could get to in dentistry, studying with the best mentors, building a beautiful practice, buying all the technology, training a great team, and still blending in with everybody else who says, yeah, I'm a dentist too. Drove me crazy. My practice was not growing like I thought it should or would. In fact, it was getting smaller and more refined, because when you do higher quality work, it needs to be replaced less often. And so it was very frustrating. I was just ready to quit. I said, I've never worked so hard at something and not gotten the results I thought I would. But that's when I went out and hired a coach. I hired a coach by the name of John Assaraf. You might be familiar with him. He was in the movie The Secret. Through him, I learned how to use the internet, do websites, drip campaigns, SEO. So I could tell the world all about me. But the only problem was, what am I going to say? What am I going to say that separates me from everybody else who does what I do? What am I going to say that doesn't make me sound desperate or like I actually needed new patients? And so since I didn't know what to say and didn't want to sound bad, I just stayed quiet until one day I heard him interview Simon Sinek. So you've probably seen Simon Sinek's TED Talk, right?
Yes, yeah, I have, yeah.
100 million people have seen that now. And as soon as I saw it, I said, that's what I'm missing. I have a great what, but I don't know my why. So I called Simon. I said, Simon, I need you to help me discover my why. So he and I spent about 8 months together going back through my life, looking for clues, trying to figure out my why. And when I finally figured it out, that my why is to find a better way and then share it, that's when my life started to make sense to me. I have a lot of patents and products and inventions that are better ways of doing things. So in my dental practice, we stopped talking about what we do, crowns, bridges, fillings, all that fun stuff. And we started talking about why we do what we do, what we believe, right? We believe that life is better when you have great teeth. In fact, you can't have a good life with bad teeth. And as we started to utilize that as our message, that's when when things changed for us. That's when the right people started coming to us. And that's when my practice really took off. And we went from just getting by to having abundance. And that was in 2010. And then every year from 2010 on, we did better and better and better. And I started getting calls from other dentists that said, hey, can you help me do what you did? So I went back and figured out what Simon was trying to do, and I made it better. So instead of taking 6 or 8 or 10 months, I could sit down with you in about an hour, help you discover your why, and then build your messaging, marketing, branding, all based on your why. And I did this for thousands of people for free, all over the world, on stages, on Skype. I'd pull somebody out of the audience on stage with me, discover their why in front of the audience, and then build their messaging, marketing, branding right there on the stage. And so as I did this, I started to notice patterns and trends and similarities because I got very good at it. You know, anything you get really good at, you start to see it differently than everybody else. And I saw these patterns and I figured out, you know, that there's only 9 different whys. That was the most important thing I figured out. We all have all of them, but one is more dominant than the rest. And that's the one that becomes your why. And so I started to teach other people to do what I was doing. And I started to get more data. And with that data in 2016, I developed the algorithm and wrote the software where you could go online and find your why in about 5 minutes. Now, I've done more why discoveries than anybody in the world. And I was only about 70% accurate. 30% of the time I got them wrong. I got my own wife's why wrong. The why discovery was 100% accurate. And I gave it away to hundreds of thousands of people to test it. And then in 2021, we launched the YOS discovery, which you took, that finds your why, how, and what, and builds your message for you in about 8 minutes. And it's also 100% accurate. And so now we license that to coaches, consultants, creative agencies, HR departments all over the world, so they can use it as their tool And they can be part of our movement to impact 1 billion people. Because when 1 billion people are clear on their passion and purpose, imagine what an impact they can have. Imagine what people can do. And the earlier we get to them, the better.
Yeah.
So that's the quick story behind it. But the why, how, and what impacted me in a couple of different ways significantly. First off, it helped me understand, who am I? Why should somebody choose me? What is it that makes me special? My why is to find a better way and share it. How I do that is by making things clear and understandable, first for myself and then for others. And ultimately, what I bring is a simple solution. So it's got to be better, it's got to be clear, it's got to be simple. And that's why somebody would choose me. And so it helped me understand myself. Then it helped me understand how to market my business, how to talk about myself to the marketplace to attract the right people to me. And then ultimately, it helped me to leave dentistry and focus on the Why Institute. So kind of what really happened, Reno, about 3.5 years ago, I was at this event called Zozobra. It's a kind of like a Burning Man type thing in Santa Fe. It's a one-night event, not a big drug thing. I mean, it's just they burn this big thing in Santa Fe. And anyways, it was a buddy's 45th birthday party. And so we ate and drank a little bit too much, woke up the next day with a headache, took a couple Advil, went back to bed. Not a big deal, right? Then I woke up, drove back to Albuquerque, which is like an hour away, and I just started feeling really bad. And I ended up going to the gym, worked out, got home. And when I got home, I just started throwing up blood. Blood was one of the Advil didn't dissolve, and it lodged in my GI tract, and it burnt a hole right where there was an artery. And I didn't know it. And so when I got home, I just started throwing up, and blood was coming out everywhere. And so I went to the hospital. They made me wait 11 hours since it was a very busy weekend. And when they finally admitted me, my blood pressure was 60/30, and I'd lost half of my blood. So I wasn't in a private room. I get up to go to the restroom. I locked the door behind me, and then I passed out, and I hit my head on the sink. And luckily, I woke up, because I hadn't woke up, I would have just bled to death. There's blood everywhere. I pushed the door open, pass out. Next thing I know, I'm in this bed. They've cut all my clothes off. I had the 2 pads on me. They had to revive me. Off to surgery to try to get to the bleed. They couldn't get to it. So they stopped, and they just did a CAT scan to see if I'd stopped bleeding. When they pump all the dye in, they blew out my arm. So my arm starts filling up with blood clots. And I have blood clots. So they do an ultrasound. And the doctor comes in and said, Gary, the blood clots are growing into your lungs, and we have to stop them, because if they get into your lungs, you're going to die. But in order to stop them, we have to give you a blood thinner, and we can't get to the bleed. So you're going to die. So I never thought that an Advil would be the reason I leave this world. But right then my phone rang, and it was a buddy of mine that was a cardiologist at the hospital. And he said, hey, Gary, I didn't even know you were in here, but I don't like what they're going to do. So I'm going to take over. And I was in the ICU for 9 days. A lot of crazy stuff happened to me. Obviously, I survived. I had to go to bed one night with an IV of heparin and hope I didn't bleed, which I didn't. Finally got out of the hospital, got back into my practice. And one of my patients, who was in his mid-80s, took me aside, and he said, hey, Gary, you got a second chance on life here. He says, when you get to be my age and you look back on your time here on earth, are you going to be glad you stayed a dentist? Are you going to wish that you'd taken this why thing to the world? I said, I'm going to wish that I'd taken this why thing to the world. He said, well, then you know what you need to do. And so I walked away from my practice. And remember, my practice was doing great. I was only working 3 days a week. I was making a lot of money. It was humming along really, really nicely. And but it wasn't what I should be doing with my time here on earth. And so what does a dentist know about bringing software to the world? Not much. What does a dentist know about building and developing software? Not much. So did I make a lot of mistakes? Yeah, I made a lot of mistakes. Did I waste a lot of money in the learning process? Yeah, I did. But am I having a great time? And am I much more fulfilled than I was as a dentist? Yes. So will your YOS or why, how, and what make your life easier? Maybe, but maybe not.
Mhm.
But it'll be a lot more fulfilling.
When I hear your story, your life has been a stepping stone of one step after the next until you had this life-threatening wake-up call. If you look back, how did dentistry make you into the person you are today?
It's funny you ask that because for a long time I thought dentistry is not what I should have done with my time here. I was a dentist for 32 years, but that's actually not true. Because if I hadn't gone into dentistry, if I hadn't gone through what I went through, I never would have had the motivation to figure this why thing out. And so it was the right place for me to be at the right time in my life. Is it what I ultimately should be doing now? No. Now I'm doing what I should be doing. But I didn't figure that out until
Mm.
mid 50s.
Mm.
So the runway is so much shorter for me than it is for somebody in their 20s. So a real good friend of mine, we grew up together, did a lot of stuff together. He didn't go to college. He got into drinking and drugs and all that stuff. And he crashed at about age 22 and never did go to college, but ended up getting into self-development, going to seminars and reading,
Mm.
and figured himself out at 22. And so from the age of 22 to 62, he's now been on this upward trajectory. And so the impact, the runway that he had is so much greater than what I have at 50, say 52.
Mm.
He had 30 more years of a runway. And now he's one of the, top commercial real estate developers in the state. He's done incredibly well all over the country because he had a longer runway. And it's not because he was smarter than me. It's because he had more time to be doing what he really is meant to be doing.
Mm.
So for those of you that are listening, the earlier you can figure it out, the better. The earlier you can help others figure it out, the better. The longer the runway, the bigger the impact. What could you have done had you known?
Mm.
Right? And so that's why I'm on this mission to really help people at the youngest age possible figure out who they are so they know what to do, so they can live a life of passion and purpose from the earliest age possible.
Mm-hmm. We've talked a lot about careers and finding purpose there, but I think your happiness in life is also determined to a large extent to your relationships, the type of relationship you choose. How do you know whether you have chosen the right partner? Because I think that is something that causes a lot of misery in life. I mean, a divorce, I've gone through 2 divorces, are financially a disaster, and it's a traumatic life situation you go through. And if I look back, I stumbled into relationships. I didn't see the warning signals early on.
Great question. I have 2 daughters. They won't date. Well, here's another thing. I had 2 daughters, and one of them went through high school and college not knowing her why, because I hadn't figured it out yet. And the other one went through crystal clear on her why, how, and what. And the one who didn't know took 6 years, took a year off, didn't know, switched majors multiple times. I'm not even 100% sure she graduated. She said she did, but I don't know. And the other one was direct path right to her. She knew what she wanted. She's been on that. She still got to do a lot of things along the way, enjoyed her college life, and is living her dream right now. And has from the time she knew it. She knew what she wanted, and that's what she's gone for, and she's so happy she did. But they won't date anybody unless they know their YOS, because they know what they're willing to have in their life and they know what they're not willing to have in their life. And what happens to most people, Reno, is let's say you and I just met right now, but I don't know your YOS and you don't know mine. What we do is look at your hairstyle, look at what you're wearing, look at your beard, look at what's in the background. And we create a narrative around who we think you are. I will create a narrative around who I think you are. And you'll do the same for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's who you are to me.
Yeah.
And then we try to figure it out as we go along. And think of how long it would have taken me to know your why, how, and what, to really know who you are, to really know how you think, to really know what's important to you, that you want to have an impact, that you want to dive in deep and look for the little things, and that you want to be that trusted source. That trust is so important to you.
Absolutely.
Not to break your trust. Yeah. How would I know that? How long would it take me to figure that out, if ever, right? But now I know it immediately. I knew it in 8 after you took it. Now I know all that about you. And I know it's important for me to not break your trust. And I know it's important for you to dive in deep and give you more information and let you do your own research and let you dive in deep. Don't stop you. Don't rush you. You don't want to be rushed. You want to figure it out because you want to be the trusted source to help others have a bigger impact. So I'll understand you. I can help you. I can know where to put you where you're going to enjoy it. I know what not to do. I know what not to say. I know what to say. So they won't date anybody unless they know their YOS.
Yeah.
So it's so valuable. I'll give you an example. My niece, she was a school teacher. Her why is right way, which means she likes structure, process, systems. She finds things that work and sticks to them because she likes predictability and consistency. Mm-hmm. So every year she would take a group of high school kids with her to Turkey to teach English. So she knew what flights, what airlines, what hotels, what restaurants, she had it planned out. 4 years in a row, great experience. The 5th year, she decides to bring her husband, who has the why of better way. And better way people like me are always trying to improve things, always trying to make it better. They're rarely satisfied. They're always trying to push things forward in a better way. So how do you think that turned out? Not very good, right? Why are we on this flight? Why didn't we take that flight? What about why are we on this airline? That other airline is better. That hotel over there is better. Why are we eating at this restaurant? World War III.
Yeah.
So they get back and they're like, we got to get divorced. I can't take this. I don't know why. We can never travel together. I can't stand them. Once they figured out their why, they understood who they were talking to, and they understood how to connect, communicate so much better. So every time he starts doing his better way thing, all she does now is smile at him and go, oh, I'm doing my better way thing, aren't I? You don't need a better way, do you? Just say, nope, I don't need a better way. Okay, got it. Yeah. You can laugh about it versus fight about it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it allows you to connect and communicate at a much deeper level, much faster. But it's also really good for what you mentioned, Reno, which is figuring out in advance. Do I really want to be in a relationship with somebody who thinks this way? And you could say, yeah, that's great. Or no, that's not what I want. I don't want a lifetime of that.
You find some type of attraction with that person, charismatic or beautiful, whatever, and blend away those characteristics that aren't in sync with your own values and your own why and so on. And then later on you find out, well, our values are completely different. And that example was wonderful, because if we know this in advance, and if we do the self-work, we know where the other person is at, and we can sort of adjust and adapt to that person, because we are all different, aren't we?
Here's something I think you'll really enjoy, Reno, is that once you know somebody's why, how, and what, you no longer have to hide it. You don't have to be sneaky. You don't have to wonder. You don't have to try to manipulate. You can just be honest. So it just gets rid of all the BS and brings forward what's really there. I know now that you want to help others have a bigger impact. I also know the challenges that come with that, which could be saying yes to too many things, right? Because you want to help everybody. No is not really in your vocabulary, right? Yes, I want to help. Yeah, I want to be part of it. So you can get going in so many directions that it's hard sometimes to get your own stuff done, right? Because you're helping so many other people. And I know you want to dive in really deep. And I know you want to look for the little things that make the big difference. But that can also slow you down. And it can take time for you to do your research. And sometimes that's a great thing. And sometimes that's not a great thing. If I want something fast, you're probably not the one to go to because you're not going to move fast. You want to research it. So I know this now about you. And I know you want to be trusted. And I know not to break your trust. And I know if I have a meeting with you at 2:00, I better show up at 1:55. Because if I'm late and I don't tell you and I just show up late, hey, we had said 2:00. It's important that you do what you say you're going to do. So it gives me so much insight into how to make your life better, as well as connect and communicate with you in a way that's authentic and real.
Yeah, that really makes sense. I'm now thinking of, those people who are stuck in jobs where they are really unhappy. Our world has become so systematic with work procedures becoming automated, especially now with AI changing so many workplaces. I see a big challenge ahead of us with people not finding their why in big institutions.
Yeah. Some people will love it there and some people will hate it there. And I'll give you an example. One of the whys is the why of challenge. To challenge the status quo and think differently, to push the limits, to think outside the box, to imagine extraordinary. Steve Jobs had that why. Richard Branson, Herb Kelleher from Southwest Airlines. They all think differently. So when you know that about yourself, if that's your why, you'll also know that you make a terrible employee. You don't want to be told to show up 9 to 5. You don't want to be told what to do. You want to do it your own way. You want to push the limits. So big corporate job with a lot of structure and rules, not going to work.
Yeah. And there we get to the beginning of our conversation. We get caught up in mortgages, in paying off student debt, in this spiral of debt and not finding our way out there. What advice would you give to such people?
So obviously you can't just walk away.
Exactly.
Unless you're at a stage where you're financially secure. So if you have enough money, you can walk away. But if you don't have enough money, which most people don't, then you have to kind of get a side hustle. So find your YOS, figure out what you ultimately want to do it on the side until you can build it up to where it replaces your income, and then you can leave. But I wouldn't recommend just cold turkey walking away and hoping that it all turns out right, because it's not that easy. Even with passion, it's not that easy.
No, passion doesn't pay the rent.
Passion doesn't pay the rent. It's not. You gotta be smart as well. And so what you'll enjoy, though, is that you'll see the light at the end of the tunnel. You'll have a place that you're going to. You won't be in a dead-end street. You'll know. I'll give you an example. My sister is a doctor who has the why of challenge. She's in Portland, Oregon, and she's been working for a hospital as a hospitalist for 12 years or more. I don't know the actual number, but let's just say 12 years. So she's tried to fit herself into this mold because she needed to, because her husband didn't make enough money and they had 2 kids in private school and all in the house and the stuff and all the exactly what we were just talking about. But even at the hospital, she's been thinking outside the box and pushing limits and doing it her own way. But now is her time that she's like, this isn't what I want to do. I don't feel valued here. I don't feel good here. I don't fit in. I do fit in well in my own business. So she started her own business and as a doctor, her own clinic where she helps people that are overweight, a bariatric type practice. And she's building that on the side while she's still working at the other, but she's cut back her hours to just what she needs so she can build the other one until the income goes up to where she can leave it. So she's working her rear end off right now in 2 different jobs, knowing that ultimately she can cut back on the hospital and bring more to the other. Is that making sense?
That makes sense. I really believe that if you emanate energy in what you're doing, like she's doing now with that specific practice she's now doing, that it will attract abundance at some point.
Yeah, she's that kind of person that is exactly what you just mentioned. Whatever she touches turns to gold. And so I have no doubt that her bariatric practice is going to be a smashing success because of the way she does it. She doesn't do typical traditional, it's different. And so in her journey, she has started different groups. For example, she started when she had her kids, she started a mom's doctor group and instantly had 1,500 doctors in it. Well, and now she's the leader of this pack of 1,500 doctors. Well, when she starts her new business, that's a referral-based business. Who do you think is going to refer to her? 1,500 doctors.
Exactly.
So she's built it up by being herself to where now that she's opened up her new practice, it's full of patients. So while here's something else I want to touch on, because of what the world needs is you. What the world doesn't need is you being a muted version of yourself. What the world needs is you being the best version of yourself, fully expressing yourself, fully being you, bringing your gifts and your talents to the world. That's what the world needs. And once you start with your why, how, and what, you'll know what that is. And then you'll know how to do that and where you want to live it. So that's the difference between why and purpose. You have one why, but you can live it in many different areas, which are your purpose. You could have a purpose with your spouse, purpose at your job, a purpose in your hobbies. You could have purposes everywhere, but you have one why, and how you live it out is your purpose.
Yes, that really resonates. There is a big difference between your why and your purpose, and I think a lot of people get confused there because you have different roles. You have family obligations, you have work obligations, you have hobbies that you pursue, and then looking at it from a spiritual sense, this is why I think we are so unique in our different talents, that we are supposed to live those talents, and that we are actually violating our higher sense of meaning if we don't follow this why.
If you meet somebody who's really struggling and you find out what their why, how, and what are, you can tell why they're struggling so fast. They're not living in alignment with their why, their how, and their what. So I'll give you an example. Your what of trust. So there's 9 whys, One of them is your why, one of them is your how, and one of them is your what. So when the why, your what is trust, but when it's a why, it's trust is like the main thing. Being the trusted source, educating yourself to a very high level so people can count on you. If someone were to break their trust, it's like a knife in the gut. You can't really come back from it, right? When it's your why. So for you, it's your what, and it's still strong. But when it's your why, it's like really strong. So imagine that person where trust is everything to them, not being able to trust themselves, getting into alcohol addictions, overeating, not working out, not taking care of themselves. How is that going to play out in their head? Can't even trust myself. So how do I eliminate myself? But if you help that person set a goal, reach a goal, set a goal, reach a goal, set a goal, reach a goal, establish that confidence, it will then open up possibilities for them so that they can then live the life they really want to live.
I think if you live this life of quiet misery, you are so caught in this spiral of negative self-talk, not finding a way out of this quiet misery. And this is why I think your mission is so important. Algorithm you develop that brings it really down to the point. One last, we could carry on talking for hours, but one last message for our audience out there that you would like to communicate.
Whether it's with the YOS discovery, whether it's taking a very long walk, whether it's spending 6 months in a cave, whatever you choose, make a commitment to figure out who you are. Just make that commitment. YOS is easy. It takes you 8 minutes. You can go to the website, yinstitute.com, and find it there. But whatever method you choose, commit today to figuring out who you are so you can figure out what you want, so you can figure out where to go, so you can live a life of passion. That's, if all you heard today was that, then today was the success.
Yeah, Gary, it was wonderful talking to you. I want to acknowledge you for your great mission and wish you so much success in pursuing this so important task.
Thank you for having me today, Reno.